Ma'am, we are good to go.
Thank you so much. Uh, with the permission of all our dignitaries, good evening, one and all. It is a privilege to be welcoming you all to this webinar on ethical AI and social media noise, organized by the Center for Artificial Intelligence and Law, set up at Bharati Vidyapeeth, deemed to be University New Law College, Pune. Against the background of rising acceptance towards AI in the profession of law, it has been seen that AI is yet to sufficiently penetrate the legal field in India, and that there is also an absence of a specific legislation governing artificial intelligence. It is against this background that Bharati Vidyapeeth, deemed to be University, New Law College, Pune, has set up this center, CALE. While working towards facilitating comprehensive research on the interplay of the fields of artificial intelligence and law, and disseminating information regarding the legal implications of artificial intelligence, CALE is also focused on encouraging our students to develop a deeper understanding of artificial intelligence and associated opportunities in the field of law. It is to this end that we have organized this webinar today. For this webinar, we have with us as our chief guest, Mr. Atul Tripathi, former Big Data and Artificial Intelligence Consultant in the National Security Council Secretariat, which is a part of the Prime Minister's Office. Sir is a data scientist with 16 years of experience and interest in artificial intelligence, social media, multilingual unstructured data processing and analysis. He has worked extensively on the AI policy and data protection policy for India. Sir is a member of Leaders Excellence at Harvard Square and Global Association of Risk Professionals. He has been ranked 6th in top 10 speakers and thinkers who have been influencing thoughts of the nation by Speak In, Asia's largest platform of speakers and thought leaders. Sir has developed strategies and self-learning applications using artificial intelligence for national security, Indian railways, shipping, human speech recognition, image processing, and many other avenues as well. Sir has been teaching advanced analytics, machine learning, anti-money laundering, risk management, artificial intelligence, and public policy analytics and its implementation at various universities, institutions, and industries. With his unmatched experience in the field of artificial intelligence, Sir is rightly considered as a champion of the field of artificial intelligence. We are indeed honored to have you with us, Sir. We are also joined by our guiding force, Dr. Bhagyashree Deshpande, Principal Bharati Vidyapeeth, deemed to be University, New Law College, Pune. We also have with us our unrelenting source of support, Dr. Aman Mishra, Advisory Board Member, CALE. I take great pleasure in welcoming you all to this webinar, and I also extend a warm welcome to the other invitees, esteemed members of the legal fraternity, our faculty members, student volunteers, and most importantly, the participants of today's webinar. May I now request Dr. Bhagyashree Deshpande, Principal Bharati Vidyapeeth, deemed to be University, New Law College, Pune, to render the welcome address. Ma'am, please.
A gigantic visionary, Honorable Dr. Patangrao Kadam, had established the Bharati Vidyapeeth deemed to be university, and today the graph of the university has been taken to soaring heights because of our beloved Chancellor, Honorable Dr. Shivaji Rao Kadam, and our dynamic Pro Vice Chancellor and Secretary, Honorable Vishwajit Kadam, who is also the Minister of Maharashtra State for Social Justice. The New Law College of Bharati Vidyapeeth is known for excellence and innovative ideas. The artificial intelligence cell was introduced this year, as Revati ma'am has stated, and it has got the focus and vision to find out how useful the artificial intelligence can be in the legal sphere. Today's topic is of great importance because it speaks about the ethics, that is, the foundation of artificial intelligence in ethics and values. One has to remember that without the ethical foundation, any knowledge or any device can be misused and the fruits will be undesired. That is why the artificial intelligence has to be used along with the ethical principles. Today, it's not only just ethical artificial intelligence, but also the social media and noise. The word noise is very aptly used by today's speaker because it includes all the undesirable activities and the usage of social media. So now let us find out how ethics, AI, social media, and noise, what is their role and what are the intricate issues which today's excellent speaker is going to give us. So I hand over to you, uh, Revati ma'am, please. Am
Thank
I
you so
audible?
much, ma'am. It is your support and dynamic perspective that continues to guide us. It is now time for the address by our chief guest, Mr. Atul Tripathi. Every time Sir and I have interacted to discuss the aspects of this webinar, he showed immense enthusiasm in addressing the students and conveying his novel ideas to them. And with the response we have received to this webinar, I believe that the feelings are mutual, sir. May I now request you to kindly address the gathering? Sir, please.
So, good evening, everybody, and thank you, Ms. Revati and Dr. Bhageshri, for this opportunity. It gives me an immense interest, and I would say it's been an interesting area for me as well. Uh, as Ms. Revati said, I'm a champion. No, I'm not a champion. I'm still a student of the subject, I would say. And thank you for your kind words for everybody to everybody. So that brings us the question is about this. What is ethics, what is morals? That is the first thing that we need to define before we even talk about AI ethics and AI morals and all that stuff. So, I mean, having said that, uh, Mr. Reddy, can I share my screen? Yeah,
Yes, sir, please go ahead.
yeah. Sorry. So, before we even talk about what is ethics and what is AI and all that stuff, we need to understand what is ethical parts of AI. And this brings me to the question of very fundamental of what is ethics, what is morals. Now we all know this, this image. We all have seen it since our childhood days, and we all know the dilemma that Arjun is facing in the battlefield. He is sitting in the middle of the battlefield, and the battle is about to start. So he's in the ethical dilemma. He's in the middle of the dilemma whether he should fight or he should not fight. And who better than the Lord Himself to tell him what is right and what is wrong, which is the foundational basis of the very Indian and Eastern philosophy. I would say, particularly in Indian philosophy, this plays a very important role. So when I was thinking about the presentation and idea, this came to me. Why not this thing? I mean, this is the very foundation. We always, all of us, go through this question in our minds: what is right and what is wrong? What seems to be right may be right at that given time period, but is it right for the futuristic perspective? This question has to be taken into consideration. The only thing that I want to highlight is see, the ethics and the morals of the game have remained the same because the human beings have remained the same. Only change that has come in is in terms of the dynamics. The dynamics right now is in terms of the technology. That is all. So that very fundamental question of ethics and morals have remained the same, and therefore this image is very much relevant even in today's world. We may tend to think that this is something of a past which has no value. I'm sorry, this has a very much relevant value in today's world and is developing and is having a deeper value. So having said that, let me just ask you this question. This is your machine learning system, and you're saying I'm putting in data, and somebody says, okay, what is wrong with the answers? And you say, I'm putting in more data and keep on churning it up. So it's like, you know, all of us. if we have the right pieces of information, we can take the right decisions. This is what the entire conversation is all about. You need to have the right pieces of information. For that, you need to have the right sources of information. And how does it play an important role in the AI systems? So let's take a look at this image. Who is happy? Aren't all the three children happy? Don't we think that all of them are happy actually? The question is, why is in the middle that the analysis is saying the result equals to fail, afraid rather? Because you see, what we have done is just like as human beings, we train our systems. That is, we train our AI based systems that whatever we are trying to develop for whatever given point of problem solving. That results in putting in data because data is what drives the entire AI based system or any decision making system based on data. If I put in the right data points, I will get the right answers to my right questions. So the only reason that the middle child, although he is very happy or she is very happy, the system is showing that the result is equal to afraid is because the data that has been put in has not been enough been put in the system. So perhaps when the system was being trained, it said only when the children in the extreme light and extreme left they appear, you can say they are happy. The rest you can put them as afraid. That's a kind of a bias. It's just a very, very biasful system, I would say, that this was developed. This was just an example, by the way. And nothing wrong with the example because you see, the system is not able to recognize. We as human beings can recognize. But how does the system recognize? System will recognize only on the basis of data points. So now this is a very interesting, data point that we have. About only 18% of authors at leading AI conferences are females. Very interesting point, right? And only 20% of AI professorships are going to the females. So just imagine now you're putting in a CV and you have an automated AI based decision making system where you put in CVs and based on that you are going to select. That's a very good idea to develop. A lot of companies are trying to do it. Nothing wrong with it. But the question that brings into the question that we all have in mind is how far is it fair to the female gender? Aren't we being very unfair? So if I've got 100 CV in the stockpile of my database and only 20 CVs are of females, the rest 80 are of males, so you can quite well imagine what is going to happen. When I put in a new CV, the system will say, no. This CV is not good enough because these XYZ data points are missing. But that's not the problem of the female professor who has come in. She is absolutely right. She is perfectly qualified enough to teach. But just because my system is saying that 20%, 20 only I have data sets of, female professors, therefore it is biased. I mean, therefore this particular CV is not valid. But that makes the system very biased, isn't it? And that's what exactly happens in our lives. If you just reflect back, when do we tend to become biased towards a situation, an item, or a product, or a person? Very importantly, people. When we don't have enough pieces of information. Now, just imagine if we as human beings, we are making mistakes, what would happen to a system which is going to start taking decisions on our behalf? Racist policing practices, very, very highly controversial topic that is happening. I mean, if we open our television sets, it's happening across the world. But why is it happening? Because we have not put in enough data points. We have just said that this is what is happening. This is how people look like, how happy people look like, how sad people look like. So if somebody is very tall, has a dark skin, has very bulging eyes, has red eyes, because I've always said to the system that this kind of a person will always be, can always or should always be profiled as aggressive behavior. Just imagine what happens. So a person of that particular stature and a build may actually not be aggressive. And if I put that decision making and take that decision making away from human beings and put it in the systems, what would happen? So, I mean, just imagine prison convictions, same thing. So, why are we getting towards, why are we building a system which is becoming very biased? Because we are putting in data points, we are putting in information in the systems, which is already has the bias built in. This is very important to understand. Why? Because as I would say technology begins to overtake a lot of our decision making, that can create a problem. Just imagine you're shopping on a e-commerce platform, and we often get these recommendations. Somebody also bought that. Now, why does that thing happen? That happens because people who bought a particular set of goods also bought a set of goods. It's quite possible that I may not be interested in that set of goods. That's a bias that has been built in. So it is not giving me the freedom to choose. It is making me go towards a thing. It is making my decision. It is not making my decision making independent of everything. It is making my decision making very, very dependent on certain factors of life. Now just imagine third genders of the society. Why should we call them as aggressive in nature? If I was to build up a system which is talking about prison conviction and policing system, why would I call that third gendered person to be very aggressive in nature? Because whenever we think about them, unfortunately, we think in that particular term, which is not fair. They are equally as much human beings as like all of us, and they can be as aggressive or they can be as happy or as nice to us as anybody else. It is just that we have biases in our mind, therefore we feed those biases in the system, and therefore all these things is happening. So when we are looking at any system, the biases always emerge from the seed, and the seed is the data points. So this entire 20% of AI professorships and 18% of leading conferences and 15 to 10% research, I mean, this only highlights how biased the systems are that we are trying to build. That brings me to the question: if the system is biased, what if it makes a mistake? So a couple of examples I would like to quote. Teo. Now, Tay was one of the Microsoft's chatbot, and it became a bit of a fiasco for them because this particular chatbot had a I would say it was designed for 18 to 24 young bracket of people who are 18 to 24 years old. But unfortunately, what happened was it developed a racist profiling thing. So you see, when this lady or whatever that with that Twitter handle tanned you is saying, "Do you support genocide?" The Tay tweets is saying, "I do, indeed." Why? Because a bias was built in. It started to get the decision making was not independent. Similarly, an interesting thing happened with Facebook as well. They developed chatbots, and unfortunately, what happened was the chatbots developed their own languages. Now, this may seem gibberish to all of us. What is all this? This is of no use. But why if you look at the patterns out there, the Bob and Alice, the two chatbots, they're talking and they're responding to each other. So just imagine if I was to give this entire decision making, what would happen to the world? A very important dilemma that we often come across, and this is a very interesting one that I always quote about, is automatic cars. Very good. I mean, we all love to own an automatic car. Who would like to drive and through the streets and push and pull the gears and move the clutches around? It's very difficult. So, question happens to be, as this the diagram is showing, the blackboard is say having you are there's an automatic car that is going about, and there are a couple of people who are walking down the street. Whom should the car hit? The female with the child or the couple of people? That's a question. And it's a dilemma it's a moral dilemma that a lot of companies are still trying to figure out, who are going in the direction of automatic cars. That's a question. That's an ethical question. I really don't have an answer to it. To be very frank with you, if I'm driving down the street and if I face this question, if I face this situation, I really do not know how I would react. Perhaps I would go and hit the car in another direction and perhaps save the three people out there and the child and hit the damage the car. But the car has been taught, or has the algorithms in the car have been built in a in a manner that how do you help yourself? How do you? It is always trying. It has always been trying to taught that you should protect yourself and the people inside the car. Just that's it. Another question that comes around is, if the car hits somebody, who is liable to pay the insurance? Is it the car company? Is it the insurance company? Is it the company that manufactured the car? Is it the set of the developers and the architects and the designers who designed the car? Whose liability is it? That's a question that nobody has an answer to. And that's a very important question that we all need to look at, because this will become important. Another point is about, that brings me to another question, is about, since we're talking about ethics and morals, Project JEDI. Now, JEDI is about Joint Enterprise Defense Infrastructure. It's by Department of Defense in the US, and it's a program that is being run by Pentagon. So Google had initially actually bid for it, and so it was a very big project. It's about $10 billion projects, which is about storing of information and all that stuff. But it walked out of the deal, although it did win the deal. The reason was that the employees of the Google said that we will not allow our company to be a part of this game. We were supposed to be a technology based company, not a company that is going to help the defense. But Microsoft went on to win. That was their decision. That was their ethical decision, moral decision. And that was the other company's decision, ethical and moral decision. They took a call. Everybody has a call to take. The question happens to be why this is important, because in the coming days, if we are fighting a war and an army has a lot of killer drones, it has sent a lot of robots, and there are human beings fighting from the other side, would it be fair to fight? The other people, other side is having human beings, while one side is having robots. Now, what is right and what is wrong? God only knows. I mean, that's an ethical question. Should the countries even allow that kind of a war to take place? Wars will take place inevitably. There's nothing to talk to. There's no peace ideologies that we should have, that is going to be about no war situations. There will be wars. Question is, who is going to fight? How much of technology is the right amount of technology? That is a question that all of us have to think and ponder upon. And that brings me to another question. And on the similar lines is the surveillance. Now, wherever we go, we find cameras installed. That's for our protection. But countries such as China, they have started to use it for something else. Now, Xinjiang is an area where they have been using it. And by the way, whatever I'm quoting is all from the open media sources. It's there. It's publicly available. So if anybody has a question, can please raise your hand, and I'll be very happy to quote you the exact source, and you can go and challenge that person. That why did you write something like this? But this is already happening. So one of the interesting things that happened was that Apple actually found out that their phones were being hacked, and set of people living in Xinjiang province, they were being targeted, and malwares were being installed to find out their activities, even after they left the country. Isn't that very interesting? Look at, and look at the way they're doing it. Collecting information 365 degrees. So a person's information is collected, his or her image is collected, and everything is known about that person. Question happens to be, how much is too much? Aren't we invading the privacy of the person? That is also the question that brings to our mind. It's all right to have security. Fair enough. I mean, I do support security. But when should the security lines and the privacy lines, they are being blurred? That is a question that all of us have to think of. And that's an open-ended question. We still don't have an answer to that question. And it's a question that will be bothering us for a long, long time. Having said that, since we are on the technology mode, the power of social media has become very powerful. It is because it is, we often tend to say, where did you come to know? We will say, I read it on a particular social media platform. But why? Why do we tend to believe that? Now, reason is because every time an information is pushed, it's like that old saying, you see a lie 1,000 times and it becomes a truth. So something like that is happening in all the four cases. So here, if you look at the first question, on the right, on the topmost left hand side, there's a child who's crying, and it was claimed that he was crying, he was grieving on the burial of a particular terrorist named Buran Wani. But when actually the fact checking was done, this was found from Syria. Similarly, if you look on the right hand side or top right hand side, you look at the person. Now, what does that say? It says that you are supposed to spread this message because you see the child is being tormented by the police. But if you observe very closely, the child is actually being helped by the police. But you would not believe it unless and until you looked very closely. But what would happen? We would just look at it and we would say, oh, this is the truth, without even realizing what is the truth. So a lie told 1,000 times actually becomes truth. And these are the classic examples. Now look at the bottom left. Now, I did not know Urdu, so I asked somebody to interpret it for me. Pardon me for my language in this particular case, but it said that chips are being installed in the LED bulbs, and you should not be using these LED bulbs because these chips are taking photographs of females and children, and you should switch them off when you're changing your clothes. Now, it's complete false, but this was believed to be true. Would you believe that? So this is the kind of thousand lies being told over and over again, and it becomes the truth. A very very powerful medium has operated. That brings me to another question: how powerful this medium has become. Now, if some of us remember what happened in 2018, in fact 2017, siege took place in a place called as Thakurganj, which is close to Lucknow in UP, and there was a set of terrorists, ISIS supporters, who kind of took siege, and they wanted to blow up things. So what was this? I mean, how did the seed of radicalization come into picture? It's very interesting. This guy called as Atif Muzaffar, he comes from a very broken home. He's very insecure about himself, and he gangs up with some people, some rich kids from KD Mohalla in Kanpur. These are all facts, by the way. These are all available, freely available. These are all freely available. And what they do is they get inside that what we call as I would say hollow ideology or a hollow fake ideology of religion, and they get enticed and they start getting radicalized themselves. So they get into an echo chamber, I would say more precisely, where they're not looking at the truth, but they're looking at the false narratives of the religions. They're not looking at the good side of the religion. They're only looking at the negative side of the religion. There's no negative side of the religion, in fact, to be very precise. They're looking at the wrong preachings, the incorrect ways that the interpretations have been done. And what do we have? We have this event called as Thakurganj. So you see how this entire thing is happening. And by the way, these people who were radicalized, they did not go to anywhere. They kept on looking. They did not go to any mosque or anywhere else. And I'm not being religious biased, by the way. They sat in the house. They kept on looking at social media profiles, and they kept on reading stuff over social media, and they kept on enforcing their ideology over and over and over again till they became a completely radicalized. And this unfortunate incident took place. Now, one of the important things that I wanted to talk about was, the honey trapping, and that's also happening on social media. Now, this is one of the very interesting things, because this is a very famous story where the churning of the oceans take place, and there are two sides. There's a good side and the bad side, and there are gods and demons, and the nectar is taken out, and there's a what we call as the nectar is taken out, and then one of the lords himself takes the form of a beautiful woman, and he says, whoever, everybody sit down and let's have the nectar together. So I would say this was the first stories that come out about honey trapping, because the demons did not get the nectar, and that was what the fight was all about. A set of people have been, you know honey trapped, and this is again facts. This is again, in fact, Arun Marwa's case was very famous. You can just go over the internet and you can search it. Unfortunate case. The Today I read in the newspapers that the army has been able to come up with its own, I would say, the applications, communication applications, which can be utilized, and which should be utilized, because open applications are open to everybody, and we are susceptible as anybody else on the human beings to be following to these honey trapping things that is happening. What really happens in this due course is you spoil your life completely and you break it apart. Question happens to be, why are we banning these Chinese apps? It's not because of anything else. It is because of the safety of public law and order. Because all the information that is there, it is being gathered. Why are we giving access when we install an application? They often ask us, give us access to your contents, give us access to your images, give us access to your contacts. Why should we allow that? That's a question that we should ask to ourselves. That's an ethical question. That has got nothing to do with, technology. That's an ethical question that you have to ask yourself. Are you going to allow that? Well, personally speaking, I do not allow that. So whenever an application is asking for such things, I desist from using it completely, and I just switch switch it back. So I just take it off from my mobile. Why should you allow that? That's a moral, and the question is not of anything else. It's your ethical question. It's a moral question that you have to answer to yourself. Would you allow that thing to happen? Would you allow a set of applications and your to take away all your personal photographs, your children's photographs, your wife's photographs, your family members' photographs, what you're doing, who your friends are, whom are you talking to very frequently, whom are you not talking very frequently? Why would you allow that thing to happen? Isn't that putting up your entire life in the middle of the road and let everybody knowing that this is who you are? But this is precisely what we are doing. We are allowing applications to take our data. Question is not that of data. Question is that of your privacy is in your hands. You don't want it. I mean, why would I allow anybody to know what do I like to eat, what do I like to listen to, which kind of music I would like to listen to, who are my friends, who are not so friendly to me, what do I talk with everybody? Why? I mean, that's not being fair to myself. Forget about everybody else. It's not being fair to myself. Why should I allow that thing to happen? And why should I allow anybody to just imagine? A question is, if everybody comes to know everything about me, then anybody can manipulate me based on my likings, dislikings, my feelings. So how susceptible am I? I'm easily manipulative. I can be easily manipulated by anybody now. So one of the important reasons why this happened was not because of anything else, but because our privacy as Indians, privacies was being taken away. And that is where a lot of questions of ethics, morals comes into picture. That brings me to another question of ethics and morals. And this is a very famous, an image where, if you again remember the Mahabharata, you know, the killing of Dronacharya. So, what did Yudhishthir say? He said Ashwatthama has been killed, but he did not say who the Ashwatthama was. Was it an elephant or was it the warrior? He said the elephant, but he said it in a very slow voice. Till the time Dronacharya put down his weapons and he went into a vow to take a break from the battlefield. And this is what happened. He was ultimately killed. His head was cut off. But why? I mean, why did I bring this point up? This is important because, you see, truth can always be half truth. And there will always be people who will be trying to manipulate you. So just see this thing. CCP orders media workers, editors, reporters, etc. to open Twitter accounts to promote CCP narratives and refute any CCP comments. This will be a part of their work and payment will be decided on their performance. So you might be seeing a lot of professional wham soon. Hashtag. Question is, would you allow yourself to be manipulated? How far is right? How much is right? how much false narratives can be right. In the case of politics, statecraft, there's nothing right, there's nothing wrong. Only thing that is right is the interest of the nation. But you as an individual, you will have to take the call. What is right for you? What is right for you as an individual? What is right for you as an ethical for you as a citizen? You will have to take the call. That's a question, that an ethical and a moral question when you're dealing with technologies. And spreading of false narratives is a very, very big thing that is happening on social media. So I would suggest, I mean, frankly speaking, I do also get a lot of these forwards on various social media platforms. So before I forward it out to anybody, I just hold back myself, and I really do that. I mean, I just hold back. I don't just put the forward button. I just hold back for a minute, and that actually helps me out because it helps me to clear my perspective whether I'm doing the right or wrong. So what do? I go back the books, I go back to the internet and search from the right sources. Am I doing the right thing? Am I not hurting somebody? I hope I'm not doing the wrong thing. I'm not putting myself on the harm's way as far as the law is concerned. I am not hurting my country's intentions. I'm not hitting somebody else who may be sensitive. But there, in the case of some people, that might be right, it might be wrong. Again, a question, moral, ethical question that's open to you as an individual. Nothing wrong with it. Your moral, ethical values are decided by you. Nobody else can do it on your behalf. Another point that has become very, very important. And by the way, before I talk on this point, I'm sure some of us will be aware of the fact that the traffic that we see on the internet is only 4%. The 96% of the traffic is on the dark web. So there's another world in the world of internet, and that is called as the dark web. That constitutes about 96% of the traffic. So the various Facebook pages, the various social media platforms that we visit, the various internet sites that we visit, the e-commerce sites, the shopping sites, and the food sites, and the newspaper sites that we visit actually constitute not more than 4%. The 96% is somewhere else, and that is a very deep dark world out there. And this is being exploited by a lot of people out there. This is actually the truth. This is again a quotable things coming from a lot of sources. So when even the US NSA experience was that Ayman al-Zawahiri and Nasir al-Wasi, the head of the Yemeni based al-Qaeda, the peninsula, Arabian peninsula, for about a decade the communication between the leaders were taking place, and apparently nobody in the internet had an idea that this was happening. Again, in 2016, when the Paris attacks took place, so the websites, they immediately said that you move on to they immediately hid their links to the Tor services, which is actually the onion address on the dark web, and they moved all the materials on the Tor services, which is in the dark web site, and asked everybody who were involved in that attack to move to the Tor services, which is the dark web, and then they started circulating the guidelines. But this is happening. This is how it took place. And again, this is a very quotable fact. It's available on the internet. So, on the similar lines, this is one of the examples. It's a free market for everybody. You can buy, sell anything. Drugs. I mean, human beings are actually being bought and sold. Organs. You can name anything, and it's a free market. It's a free run. Information, whatever you want, you get. And this is one of the classic examples. You see, this is a Bitcoin thing that they're selling. They're telling that if you're supporting our ideology, then this is the Bitcoin number that you need to spend. And what are they doing? They're using these Bitcoins to buy weapons of this nature, and they're telling how do you need to do it. So you're advertising, and there are people out there who on the internet and dark webs of the world who are doing this activity, and they're very much interested, and they're carrying out these kind of activities. So the dark web has become another big, big problem and a very big area to look at. And in particular, if we look at from the legal aspects of life, the question happens to be how do you manage? I mean, how do you put somebody, if I'm doing this kind of an activity, am I right? I can only say I was visiting the website. How can you stop me? What is right? What is wrong? What is correct? What is incorrect? Is still very undefined in the realms of technology. Ethics, morals, righteousness, everything is undefined. It's here that we have to apply ourselves as societies, as individuals, as members of the community, and as citizens of the state to decide what is right and what is wrong. And that brings me to the another question is how are they doing it? I mean, it's all, by the way, these are all off the shelf. You can buy it. You can buy all these equipments. These are all of their shelf of equipments available where you can do, you can use your agro pulse for your all social media platforms and you could get all your alerts, hashtags, trends, everything else. It's freely available and you can just use it. So that is the power of internet, and that is the power of technology and the ethical and moral questions that we are looking at. So that brings me to the end of my talk. I would be very happy for from everybody to take questions and have a discussion around these points.
Thank you so much, sir. The session was exceptionally informative, and I'm sure that everybody agrees on this. And it has shed light on so many unexplored areas of the social media as well. And I'm pretty sure that you have ignited the minds of all our participants with so many ideas. To take this academic discussion forward, we shall now proceed with the question and answer session. The participants who are watching us on the live stream are requested to post your questions on the YouTube live chat that is open now. Sir, I will be addressing some questions to you. So, with your permission, may I begin, sir?
Yes, you may, Ms. Revati.
Yes, sir. So, sir, first and foremost, we'll start off with a positive question because I believe a number of the questions that are coming in deal with topics that you have actually talked about, but they wish to know what is your take on the same or what do you think could be the possible solutions. But before we go into that, I would like to start with a positive question that has been addressed by Simran, who is a student member of the Center for Artificial Intelligence and Law. She asks, how can artificial intelligence be instrumentalized for effective functioning of social media?
Okay, so one of the ways that this can be done or is being carried out by a lot of social media platforms I'm aware of. One of the ways they're trying to do is one of the important things that they're trying to do is control a lot of hate speech. But before we do that, we also have to define what is hate.
Right.
So that has been in the news of late. I'm sure all of us must have heard about it over the internet and the television channels. Some controversies as well, without naming any company, any individuals. I'm sure everybody must be aware of it. But yes, companies are trying to do that, control a lot of hate speech. A lot of work needs to be done before we even move into that direction.
Right, right, sir. So the next question is from Yash Harshvardhan, who is a student of New Law College. He asks, recently the government of India has signed an agreement regarding sharing of data and geospatial information with the US, a country which has been alleged to have snooped on its citizens as disclosed by WikiLeaks. How do you assess this new development? Should we be apprehensive with the way the governments have used the plank of national security to gain access to vital personal information of its citizens?
So let me be very frank with you. This has got nothing to do with personal information, first of all. This has got to
Okay,
do
sir.
more with a strategic question. That's a
Right,
different area, and we are delved into an area that we would like to get into. Question happens to be personal information is another open to interpretation. What is my personal information? Now, why are you giving? Let me ask everybody. Why do we allow, when we are very happy, allowing our applications to be using our personal information because I want to use that application? I'm very happy to do that. And where is the question of personal information being not being shared and being shared? You already gave it. You gave it free of cost without anything else. You gave it yourself
right,
with your due consent. I mean, you could have just said, I don't want to use this app. It may be very attractive. A lot of my friends may be using it, but I don't find it worth it. It's a question, again, as I said, it's your moral, ethical question that you have to answer to yourself. What is right? What is wrong for you? Do you want your entire life to be to be known by everybody? I would not. I mean, why would I would like to know? Why would I allow anybody to know what do I eat? When do I sleep? Who my friends are, who my not so close people are. How do I look? How does my child look? How does my wife look? How does why would I like? I mean, that's a personal piece of information. Please try and understand. One very important thing is, we often tend to make a mistake, and the mistake we think is that this has also got a very interesting thing. This has got more of a biological thing or an anatomical thing about human beings. So why do we share pieces of information? Because what happens is when we get likes and dislikes on our comments and posts, we tend our neurotoxin. I mean, our brains get excited, and good hormones are released that excites our brain. Therefore, we get excited to share more and more information. Nothing else. Just imagine you have posted something and you get 50 likes. Another day you post something and you get 100 likes. So just imagine how excited you become. You are excited enough to post something more on the third day to get 1,000 likes. But what is actually happening? It's a very much biological thing that is happening to you. You're not realizing a good set of hormones. It's like you just walk into a party and everybody says, "Oh wow, how smart you look, how beautiful you look, how well dressed you are, how smart you are." So you feel happy about yourself. Oh wow, everybody's recognizing me. That's the very simple concept of life. So nothing has changed. As I said at the very initial talk, that image diagram, the diagram, that image of Arjun sitting in the middle of the battlefield and asking for guidance, what is ethically right, that still holds true. That still holds water. Please do not underestimate the value of that image.
Right, sir. The discussion regarding ethical AI is one that needs a discussion that is going to go on for a long time, I believe. So
Yes,
then,
it is.
so we have a question from a faculty member, Dr. Aman Mishra. Um, he asks, with the end goal of artificial intelligence being achieving human-like levels of intelligence, if and once the machines actually stimulate emotions and act like humans owing to artificial intelligence, how should they be governed? In such a circumstance, to what level can liability and responsibility be ascribed to the system? And should that be over the people who are supposedly in control of such systems?
Okay, so Dr. Aman, I would like to answer this question in two, three ways. One is how much of level of AI can we achieve? Now, it's a very well-known fact among the medical community people that we as human beings understand only 5% of our brains. Only 5% of our brains we have understood how our brains actually work. Question is, we are trying to mimic our brains into a set of systems or a set of, I would say, bodies of, whatever you want to call it, non-living things. Can we ever make it do? I mean, the way I would react to, say, eating chilies would be very different from the way you would react to eating chilies. The way I would get excited looking at a football match would be very different from the way you would be getting excited to. So we all the 7 billion people on the earth are unique and individual from every perspective of life. Trust me on this. All of us have very different opinions, and of us have very different ways of looking at this. We can only, I will be very, very frank with you, I mean, frankly speaking, I do not see a time period coming in our lifetimes where we are able to take a call and say, yes, the system has arrived which is going to take a decision on our behalf. That very question that I brought forward, as far as the car is concerned, who is liable? I don't know. That's the question that everybody is still trying to figure out. Is the automaking company that is going to be liable? Maybe. Can it be said, okay, the automaking company would say, no, 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 I would not be liable to take this liability, because you see, I did not develop it. The architects, the data scientists, and the others, and the designers and the engineers who worked on it, they should be held liable. Then they will say, oh, no, 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 why should I take it? The premium is being taken by the insurance company. They should be held liable. The insurance company will say, but what did I do about it? I just gave you an insurance premium, right? I'm giving you safety from a normal. This is an act of God. Now go. Where do we stand? Where does that poor person who has been hit go to? So these are still very interpretation, open to interpretation questions. And the only reason is because we still are not able to figure out how we as human beings behave. We have a very different ways of reacting to various situations of life. Sometimes we get very irritated, and I mean, just go back to your few days ago, or 10 days, 20 days, X number of days ago, and just close your eyes and imagine that you are there in a particular situation. Somebody must have said something very small, but it created a huge I mean, huge. It must have You must have created a huge ruckus in your life. I mean, everybody goes through that thing. The question happens to be, and there will be situations where we would have never have reacted to a large area, or a large question that has come up. So it's very difficult to answer this question. So I do not foresee a time period where we are able to come to a situation where we'll be able to actually take this kind of a call. That's a very difficult question to answer, and it's still to open to interpretations. And that's the only thing I can say.
Right, right. So I think large number of questions with respect to ethical AI will be open ended like this, because there's so much to be found out and explored, and so much of it is based on subjectivity.
Exactly. I mean, see the data points that I talked about,
Right,
subjective. It's very subjective. I mean, as a human being, I should be fair. I should not be biased because I've read only 20 CVs of a female professors. That should not make me biased towards the males.
right, right, sir.
And just imagine a system taking
Uh,
over and taking that decision.
yes, sir. Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Sorry, you something.
So we have a question from one of our YouTube participants. His name is Ashok. He asks, in a country like ours, where much significance is given to the freedom of expressing oneself, AI censoring bots, which is something of a common existence right now, in social media seem to be counterproductive to the right that has been guaranteed. How do we strike a balance? And so, just before you go ahead, in connection to this, one of our professors from New Law College has also asked, uh, the use of algorithms and AI often misinterpret the content of mails and social media posts and term them as spam or reportable content. How can this be controlled?
Um, so the first question first. It's about if I'm. Can you just repeat the question? I mean, I just missed
It's
the
regarding
voice.
AI censoring bots.
Bots.
He says that in a country like ours, where much significance is given to the freedom of social media, seem to be counterproductive. How do we strike a balance?
On the contrary, I would say social media has given us more voice. It has given voice to everybody. I believe that
Right,
earlier they would say that speaking is an art. In today's world, I would say listening is an art. Everybody is talking.
right,
Everybody is saying something. Everybody is expressing their opinion. You just put up a topic. You say that cats and dogs have become friends. Just see how people react to it. Just see how people react to it. So everybody has an opinion. There's nothing wrong with it, and everybody is expressing their opinion. It's a freedom of speech. It's also right. And as far as social media platforms are concerned, I would only suggest that please remember when you're on a social media platform, you just close your eyes and imagine that you're standing in the middle of the road and you're saying something. You may be saying about an event, you may be saying about a person, you may be saying about something. So just like the way I will be cautious when I'm standing in the middle of road and talking about something, you should be equally cautious when you're speaking something on the social media, any of the social media platforms, irrespective. Reason being, people out there are listening, they are interpreting. The way you may have said something may not be interpreted in a particular manner. So you have to be very careful. Freedom of speech is an excellent point. I'm not denying about it. That's a fundamental right of mine. Article 19 guarantees me that. But Article 92 also says that my freedom of right ends where your freedom of choices begin. So
right,
my
right,
nose
sir.
and your nose is a very important point of life. And the
Right.
other question about the faculty, I'm from faculty. I just missed out the question on that.
So it says the use of algorithms in AI often misinterpret the content of mails and social media posts and term them as spam or reportable content. How can this be corrected?
So, yeah, so I mean, actually, we're still working on that spam part of life. I mean, just go back to your Gmails and the other Outlook
Right,
boxes. Just go back and just see. Sometimes you find some of the important mails have gone there. What actually happens is if you don't open a particular mail coming from a particular set of from a particular set of email addresses, then automatically is pushed as spam. So this is still a very open area. It's like a day-to-day activity. You keep on getting your mails, and you are not reading a mail. Somebody else is reading it. It is deciding what is important for you and what is not important for you, right? So
right, sir.
perhaps your personal assistant says, "Sir, to kabhi dekhte nahi hai, so let's put it as a spam." But it's quite possible that may be an important letter coming from somebody. So the similar thing is happening,
Right,
and technologies are evolving around that. I would not deny about it.
right, sir. Right. Sir, there's a question regarding the dark web that is coming from one of our participants who are watching us on the live stream. He's asking there are multiple harmful listings in the dark web. Can AI be useful in combating the same?
Uh, well, it can be, but there are challenges. I'll be very frank with you. One of the biggest challenges that you'll face is when you pull out information from dark web, because that constitutes 96% of the traffic. How much of information are you going to pull out? A lot of, I know, applications are developed and are still being developed around the technologies, particularly on dark web, to identify what is harmful and what is right and what is wrong on the dark web. So technologies are evolving all around that area. People are working in that area. So it's not that there's no work happening on that field. There are technologies and companies that are working in that area. I know for sure.
Right, sir. Right. So, coming to the last question for today's session, it's from Professor Asta of New Law College. She's asking that pervasive surveillance seems to be a big part of AI. Is AI going to be a new big brother? In the Indian context, big boys. Will a future with AI mean an end to privacy? What can a normal person in the society do to combat an invasion of his or her privacy? And further, she has asked one another question: how can one answer the question of strengthening bias in AI systems?
Okay. So the first question first, as far as surveillance is concerned. Surveillance is, I mean, see, get the point. The way, I would say the state looks at things is a very different way from the way we look at it. But please remember one thing, that we both constitute the same part of the society. So in open societies like ours, it will be difficult, I would say, because there are judicial systems out there. There is a society to be looked at. And it cannot be said, I will collect everything and I'll start monitoring everybody. It's not possible because there is a privacy factor of life, you know. So I do not foresee that kind of a scene ever happening. But yes, certain rotten elements of society, we always come across in the news that this has happened and that person was being surveilled and that person was being surveilled. That will happen, continue to happen for rotten elements of society. And I don't know whether I think so. That's right as well. I mean, it's like monitoring your naughty boy in the class or a naughty girl in the class without being gender biased. The reason we do it because we just want to ensure that the person or the child is in the controlled situation, and doesn't slip out of hand. So technology, I would say, is not the big brother. It's like driving a car. You can drive the car on a straight road in a very smooth manner, or you can drive it in a rash manner. So technology is just like the car. It's up to you the way you drive it. There's nothing wrong with the technology. What is wrong is the interpretations of the technology. How do you use that technology? You can use a knife to cut an apple
Right.
and enjoy a healthy life, and you can use it the other way around. So it is still an open. So nothing wrong with AI as a concept. Nothing wrong with large data collections as a concept, open to all. It's all about the way we use it. But I don't see in Indian conditions that ever happening, that surveillance, complete surveillance ever taking place. Because we are an open society and we respect each other. That's a very important point. I've always believed in.
Right, right, sir. That is true. I thank you, sir, for answering all our questions so aptly and so conveniently. As in, you made it sound like something that we already know, and we should just look inside ourselves to find these answers. You made it seem as though we already knew all this. So we thank you so much, sir, for this opportunity. Now, before we
Thank you.
go ahead with the vote of thanks, can I request all the participants to kindly just turn on their video so that we can take a quick photograph with our guest? Requesting all the participants who are here to kindly take turn on their video so that we can take a quick picture. Thank you. Anmol, kindly let us know when you're done. Yeah.
People are joining.
So meanwhile, we can also still have a word of questions if somebody has anything, we still discuss things. And this is, I kept it very light because I want people to ask questions. It's an open forum. Let's be
Right,
democratic.
sir. Right. So I actually do have several other questions. So I will be sending them across to you, sir, as in the form of a document, and we will take your written answers to all of these questions. There are a number of them which are coming in currently.
Then, ma'am.
Go ahead.
All right. Thank you so much, everybody. May I now request Sobia, a student member of KALE, to kindly render the vote of thanks? Sobia?
Yes, ma'am. It is said, no duty is more urgent than that of returning a thank you. A very good evening to one and all present. I deem it a great honor and privilege to be proposing the vote of thanks on this momentous occasion. I, Sobhya Sharma, from the bottom of my heart and being, take this privilege to heartfully thank our chief guest of the day, Mr. Atul Tripathi, sir, former big data and artificial intelligence consultant at the National Security Council Secretariat, part of Prime Minister's office, who, despite of a packed schedule, spared all his precious time for all of us. Sir, it was a sheer delight listening to you. All of us surely have a handful of lessons to take back home. Also, I would like to sincerely thank our most respected and beloved principal, Professor Dr. Bhagishri Deshpande, ma'am, for her constant guidance and support throughout. Ma'am, it is your vision that we are actualizing through KALE. Furthermore, I would like to thank Dr. Aman Mishra, sir, member, Advisory Board, KALE, for guiding us in all our endeavors. Moving further, I would like to thank our Revti ma'am, Faculty Coordinator, KALE, New Law College, Pune, for being the most solid support system throughout and for making this event a reality. A special mention to the technical team who has facilitated the successful organization of this event. And finally, last and the most important thank you to all the participants for their enthusiasm and for making this seminar a great success. A big thank you to all of you once again.
Thank you, Sobia. Thank you, Atul sir. Thank you so much. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. And thanks for patiently listening and asking questions. It was a pleasure interacting with one on all.
We look forward to